Welcome to episode 10 of Tuning In with Bob Lancer and
Dr. G or Greg Nielsen.
the
Pick
purpose
your
of the
pick.
show is to share the wisdom teachings of Isidore Friedman, with
Yes.
whom you and I studied very closely for a number of years back in
Yeah.
Brooklyn, New York.
Good
And
old Brooklyn, Seagate, especially.
Seagate,
Yeah.
yeah. And the show is titled Tuning In because it's all about orienting to what we call the energy world. So just as a brief intro, Greg, I'm going to read some of Isidore's stuff here.
Oh, yes.
How would you describe what it means to tune in to the energy world? What are we talking about?
Woo. Well, we have 10 episodes that we've been dealing with it, so we're going to continue. But in essence, short amount of space, becoming aware of yourself, how you think, how you feel, how you emote, the so-called self-knowledge through self-reflection and self-observation, you begin to have the opportunity to choose what you're going to focus on. And when you have that ability, that's the beginning of tuning in a conscious way, instead of unconscious tuning in or tuning out. So that's kind of a short little summation of what happens. And it's real. And when you do it, believe me, you will see the difference. Yeah.
So what have you been tuned into today?
Oh my gosh, you got to. I've gone through quite.
Did you do any conscious intentional tuning today?
Oh yeah. Well, I'd say 90% of the time, or maybe more even, at least 90. When I get up in the morning, it's a time of tuning in, really almost immediately after I get out of bed. And even when I'm still lying there for a few minutes, or even not a few minutes, I'm paying attention to what's flowing in and out of my thought wave. Some of it's like, whoa, it's kind of in between dreaming and daily life. And in particular, I'm looking for anything that's planting a seed that would be considered, I don't want to go in that direction. I want to let that go. But sometimes weird things creep in, like, what the heck is that? And sometimes it could be other people. It could be my own fear. It could be a lot of things. But the point is, I want to let that go and get more in the moment and more tuned up and tuned in within the first 5 minutes if possible, without rushing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I answer that? Yeah.
Well, it sounded like an answer to me.
Very good.
I was trying
We
to
have
tune into
questions?
I was tuning into what you were meaning,
And I was tuning into how you were taking it.
Yeah, so
know,
tuning into
we
each
go
other
on
is
and on.
tuning in.
But then, of course, through the day was a lot of roller coaster things. And I can go on that, but that would take a while. But happy to share it as we go along.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, it's like tuning in is really it's more about being aware of my feelings.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Right, because tuning in is the energy. We enter the energy world in our feelings, not so much in our thoughts.
Yes.
Although our thoughts do direct our lives.
And we can lead to certain feelings we don't want to be tuning into. Yeah.
Yeah. You pretty much tune in to anybody you think about.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Oh yeah.
So like I
Anything,
remember
person, place, or thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I remember, when I was working with Isidore, it occurred to me at one point, and I spoke about this in an earlier podcast with you, where I just realized, I really love being in his energy field so much, I can just tune into it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Sure.
Right? I can just
Absolutely.
tune into it. And then I found, with studying Bitfan and going to the School of the Natural Order out in Baker, Nevada, you can tune into what he called the field out there, feeling the sense of the energy out there.
Yeah.
You can tune into God.
Exactly.
You can tune tune into you can watch a bumblebee, buzz around a little flower and tune into what the bumblebee, the ecstasy of the pollen and the honey and
Like, I know I have a little bird feeder outside my door on the deck there. I can't wait till Blackie arrives, the crow.
Blackie the crow.
Blackie the crow. I go, wow, you love peanuts. Just observing, it's a joyful experience because I'm going, wow, look how he or she, whatever, puts the feet down on it, chops it away. That's so good. And then takes off. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can tune into joy, you can tune into sorrow.
Yeah.
It's whatever you resonate with. And once we realized, boy, I have a choice of what I
Yes.
tune into. I don't have to think of that, that angry person that I encountered on the road. I don't want to tune into that person,
Yeah.
what they're going through.
And of course, I've gone through many cycles where I've caught myself doing that type of behavior and justifying it because I'm right.
Yeah.
So if I'm
Well,
right, I'm going to continue to do it. Who am I harming? Myself, because I'm tuning in to something that's unhealthy and generating feelings that keep reproducing themselves.
yeah.
Yeah, sort of
You can,
feeding.
you can tune into lack, you can tune into
Oh,
abundance, you can
exactly.
tune into freedom, you can tune
Yeah,
into crisis,
yeah.
you can tune into
So
catastrophe.
yeah, one thing been doing, looking at a lot this last 6 months, and I've gone through cycles like this before, is when there's a frustration, noting it. How does it feel? Where is it in my body inside? Now, let's let go of it. I can tell you when I'm the cycle I'm on now, at first I'm going, although you don't want to let go of it. I kind of, because I was right about that.
Mm,
I mean, subconsciously,
mhm,
it's sort of some gripping myself even more. But
mhm.
as I go, let it go, breathe it out. It's a crisis. It's a minor crisis. It's a low crisis. Doesn't matter. Let it go. Now, all of a sudden, it refreshes, and you tune into like, oh, I could go this way or that way, and so on and so forth. That's lots of stories like that that happen going through this cycle. And I've noticed my frustrations that I'm attracting a lot less,
Mm.
at least in this. I'm sure I'll go some another cycle of them, come up, and I go, wow, this is kind of cool. Once I let go of the frustration, almost like a window or door opens for what to do, what to think, what to feel, or nothing. Just sit there and enjoy, go on to the next thing and enjoy the moment.
As opposed to just trying to push through the frustration,
Yes.
seems to constrict more and more, and you get more
Yeah.
opposition and more difficulty,
Oh yeah. It just ingrains itself, and then you attract more of a similar thing. One of my major things is frustration around technology. So you go to make something work and it doesn't work. And if I get all worked up, I noticed within a couple of weeks, I tracked several more technology frustrations as opposed
uh-huh.
to, uh, gosh, I pressed the button and it didn't really bring it up on the screen. I don't have to really deal with it right now. It's not an emergency. I just turn off the laptop or whatever. I'll come look at it in the morning. And 80% of the time, it's not even there
Yeah.
when I get back.
You touch and let go in a sense.
Yeah, touch and let go.
You tap into it, it's frustrating, now let it
Yeah,
go, back to it later, works. It's
I don't need it.
interesting how,
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
we hear all this, in the news, there are people talking about politics and,
Oh, yeah.
how this party or that party and, this policy or that policy is going to improve your life.
Oh,
But,
yeah. No, yeah.
people aren't talking about like, how do you actually live a life free of frustration?
Yeah.
It
And
doesn't
like it,
matter who's in office. If you know how to deal with frustration, what
right.
to do about frustration. People experience frustration every day,
Yeah.
and then they wind up, and I've done it, you've done it,
Oh, yeah.
wind up just exacerbating it
Yep.
until it turns into like a big temperamental explosion.
And then
Then
the
it can
feeling
turn
and
into violence.
exactly, the feeling and emotion becomes almost like you say, a contained bullet
Yeah,
of
yeah,
energy
yeah.
that just, and you start making choices and behaviors, not even choices, just automatic reactions to a situation or person or place or whatever. And it escalates. And Izzy talked about this all the time.
But he called them bombs,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
There are people. Some people are stones. Some people are bombs.
I remember that one of the first times I called him at a job that I had in Manhattan, trying to apply organics in the early phases. And what in my mind, I'm thinking it's not working. So I better call him and ask him. He said, you know what? Well, there was a lot of things happening in this office. He said, when's your next break? About 15 minutes. Go outside, go across the street and sit in the park for 15 minutes. The idea being change your attention, change your focus, let go of the frustration rather than just make it swirl like a tornado. Yeah.
And then you realize it's not the situation, it's my reaction. It's what I'm getting
Exactly.
caught up in.
Yep.
You know, and you can also, going back to tuning in, you can also tune into the future.
Oh, yeah,
You
yeah,
can
yeah.
sense like, well, if I do this, what does that feel like? Well, if I do that, that feels expansive, uplifting,
Yeah.
regenerating. If I do that, it feels constricting, draining.
Yeah.
You can tune into how you might be affected energetically by a choice you're going to make.
I read a book once by Carlos Castaneda. I don't know if you ever heard of the guy.
Oh, of course, sure.
Yeah. And he talked about Don Juan, the Yaqui Indian. I can't
Mhm.
pronounce it properly, but it's a form, it's Indian tribe in Mexico.
Mhm.
And the translation was taking a path with a heart. So that's similar, like you're feeling it.
Yeah,
Oh, that feels really good.
yeah,
And sometimes I don't want to do that, even though it
right,
feels good, because it's
right.
not what I think it's the right thing to do.
Now, Vivian tells a story about a tribe somewhere, I think it was in the Amazon, the guides, and they would, like for 3 days, they would run through the jungle, and then they would stop for a day. And the guy asked him, well, why are you stopping? You stopping because you're tired? He says, no, we're waiting for our souls to catch up with us.
I think I remember reading that
And
or
it
on the tape or something. Yeah.
yeah, that sense of being whole and
Hmm.
balanced, right? And then if you
Rhythmic alternation. Yeah.
well, that's essential
Partly.
for it.
Yeah.
It's essential. Yeah, the rhythmic
Yeah.
alternation, yeah, of the going and stopping and going and
Hmm.
stopping. And
Yeah.
the purpose of the rhythmic alternation is to live, Isidore described it as kind of in a whole and balanced state.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
that feeling of I'm present, I'm whole, I'm balanced, I'm fully here, right? Now I can function rather than sort of tearing myself apart, trying to get here and trying to get there and rushitis, he called it.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. Modern rush. Go,
Mhm.
go, go. The
Yeah.
go, go, go machine.
And then you start tuning into all the other people who are going, and then you're tuning into their frustration, and then you're picking
Hmm.
up on their frustration or their anger, right? Yeah. At the same time, we can tune into like higher levels of being. We can tune
Yeah.
into peace and poise and power and joy and love and light and wisdom, right? Like the Kabbalah tree
Yes.
of life, the 10 spheres of the tree of life. What occurred to me finally after working with Isidore like 7 years, my big breakthrough in the Kabbalah was when I realized that the 10 spheres are like tuning stations.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so,
Absolutely.
like
Absolutely. Absolutely.
this is the diagram of the
Oh,
tree,
yeah.
right? And
You
so
can
the
tune
top,
into the energy.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can tune into divine will. I can tune
Hmm.
into wisdom,
Hmm.
tune into victory.
Yeah.
I can tune into beauty, right? I
Yes.
can tune into the strength and the stability of the foundation. And
And you can tune into, I'm going to set a limit in this situation and I'm going to measure that limit appropriately and wisely. I don't want to kill a fly with a shotgun. You know,
that's sphere
and
5. Yeah.
yeah, so you kind of measure what we're going to stop here. I'm not going to put it out there so hard that you're going to like freak out, but
Hmm.
just enough of a no, we're not going there.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
Isidore, talked a lot about measure. Why don't you, converse a little bit about measure and how what measure
Yeah.
with organics. Isidore's teaching is called organics. So
Right.
where does measure? Because I remember he used to say with the measure, the measured, and the measurer meet, there is reality, something to that effect.
Yeah.
So where
Well,
does measure fit into the organics wisdom of tuning in?
and I would go back to at least how I'm thinking right now and forming the words. You talk about feeling, measuring your situation in relationships, at work, at home, in hobbies, or whatever you're doing. If you're in touch with the feeling of the energy of the moment, you kind of sense like that I can go forward on this because it feels wise, it feels good, it feels energizing. And then at a certain point, you go, wait a minute, okay, that's enough because you feel it. That's a form of measurement. It's the amount of energy moving in a certain direction for a certain length of time. And then when that time ends, you can sense like, why do you want to keep pushing?
Mm-hmm.
For example, when I first became a writer, I had this image because I read so many books about authors that they sit down early in the morning and they go all day. Right, 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 right.
Right.
Well, it didn't last.
Sit there,
Yeah.
don't get up, right?
My writing time is from 8 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. Well, that lasted a few months and I got
Mhm.
myself sick
Yeah.
because I was going against the measurement of the energy in the moment.
Well, and look at how who's talking out in society about how mismeasurement can make you sick,
Yeah, exactly.
right? So you
Yeah,
measure like how much talk, right?
yeah,
How
yeah,
much talk around a specific subject, right?
yeah,
How much talk to a given person, you know? How much thinking am I doing? How much emotional intensity,
mm-hmm.
how much physical intensity as I'm moving through the day? Is it feeling like I'm in conflict with time? How
Yeah.
much time am I spending on this or that? Remembering that, going back to politics, people don't, they talk about other people having the power over your life.
Oh,
But
yeah.
your life is determined, as Isidore used to say to me, you're focused of attention, time, and energy. What are
Yes.
you focusing your attention, time, and how much attention are you giving this? Like a relationship,
Yeah.
right? It needs
Yeah.
a certain amount of attention, time, and energy to thrive. You don't give it enough
Definitely.
time, attention, time, and energy, it's gonna die.
This is it.
Same thing
Yeah.
with a career.
Like a plant that you don't water or get sunshine. It's
That's
gonna,
right.
you don't get enough. That's it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So mismeasurement can cause sickness, like measuring, can I get my car into that little groove there while this other car is coming, right?
Yeah.
Measure could be a matter of life and death,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Measuring how I'm being affected by what I'm doing could also help me to live in joy
Yeah.
as opposed to, unhappiness and frustration and push and force.
Yeah. Yeah.
So measure is, just remembering,
It starts to
remembering how
become a
much time
habit after a while. It does become a habit,
it does.
a healthy habit that's not too rigid.
Yeah.
And
You
it's
can only,
actually, yeah.
yeah, they become all these practices, and I'm gonna read a little bit about that
Oh,
soon.
good. Yeah.
All these practices, they do become second nature after a
Yeah.
while,
They
but you
do.
can still build upon it. You can
Oh,
still,
yes. Always.
raise it to a higher level with
Yeah.
conscious intention.
It never, well, as far as I'm concerned, it just never ends. Don't even think about ending it all or beginning. Just keep doing it.
See, now that was good general semantics. You almost said it never ends, but then you said, as far as I know,
Exactly.
it never ends.
And that's the habit that I got over time.
Yep.
I didn't even have to catch myself. It just sort of came right in because I got
Yeah.
used to doing it for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, I think, when we're really ready to teach and help others, when it becomes second nature to us.
Yeah.
It's like automatic, when I'm working with people and they'll present to me some sort of, dilemma or crisis or problem that they're going through, I'm able to sort of put myself in their situation.
Yes.
And then I'm able to tune in, okay, how would I handle this?
Yeah.
And that's where the organics just starts to flow,
It does. Yeah. There's a
function.
flow, intuitive awareness where the words form, the timing forms, the words that would be effective come to you.
Mhm.
You know how much to say or not to say, because sometimes saying too much is going to work against what you're trying to say in a
Mhm.
way. So,
Or just deplete your energy, so you
yeah,
don't have enough energy, because it does take a high
yes,
energy level to be self-aware, to notice how
hmm,
you're functioning, to function effectively, to sense, I'm having a conversation with someone, how are they responding? How do I create harmony here? How
yep.
do I make this relationship something constructive instead of destructive?
Yeah, I know from time to time I'll get, hey, could you check? We haven't talked too much about the pendulum, but, and there's other ways of checking. You don't need the pendulum, but could you check the pendulum for me? And it's like, 8:30 at night. I'm tired. I'm winding down. I'm slowing down.
Mhm.
I've learned, and I wrote about that in my pendulum books. I'll call you back in the morning.
Right.
I mean, honestly, I'll say I'm not real, what's the word? Positive or feeling it's wise.
I'm not in right state,
There you go. Not in right state.
just not in the right state to do it. And
And not
that's,
fair to you, and not fair to me. So let's
yeah.
not do it. Yeah,
Yeah,
more.
and Isidore once said, sort of joking around, he said something to the effect of, you know, be careful about answering the phone when the sun goes down, because that's when the vampires come out.
Oh yeah. Well, when I was younger, I came out a little early. I was waiting. Okay, it's almost sunset.
Right.
I'm coming out now.
Okay, so I'm gonna read,
Yeah,
well, I just selected a few isms, Isidore's
okay.
sayings and
Good
good.
idea. Thank you, Bob, for doing that.
Well, my pleasure. It's always a joy to just rewrite his stuff anyway, like we
Yeah.
did in his
Oh,
apartment,
yeah.
sitting at his little card table,
Oh,
copying
yeah.
notebooks, diligently while he's talking,
I mean, really top of the line coat table.
Yeah,
It lasted all the years I was there. It lasted, so it didn't break.
yeah, it was perfect. It was
It was,
beautiful.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so here's an ism, one of Isidore Friedman's statements.
Hmm.
See what your comments on this.
Okay.
Sanity, sanity has as one of its first requirements the learning of how to function, evaluate, and work by gradation.
Ah, okay. Yeah,
You
that's
sort
a
of
beauty.
alluded to that when you were talking about frustration.
Yes, but I'm going
Well,
through a process of gradation. Am I
so
trying to
comment on that a
solve,
little bit.
am I trying to like master frustration in a week or a day? No. When the next cycle of frustration comes in, will I remember? Will I observe? Will I notice? Will I not identify? And these are going by steps. I mean, I'm on this quest, I guess, to reduce my reactivity to frustration over the last 6 months. And I've gone through these cycles before,
Mhm,
but I think it was time for another one. But yeah, I look at it more like law of progressive approximation, small gradations. You
mhm.
don't have to bite off the whole thing.
Right.
And oftentimes your energy stays more stable and centered when
Oh,
you do a little bit at a time.
well, that's part of the measurement. How
Yeah,
much? I don't have to eat the whole meal in one
no,
swallow. And so,
exactly.
it also goes back to something he stressed called process thinking.
Hmm.
Like anything
Yeah,
I want to accomplish, not just do it, it's a series of steps.
yeah.
And I can just do a little bit of it, let it go, come back to it. Now, some people say, oh no, I'm attached to it. I have to go all the way. That's just the way I am. And it's like, well,
Okay, well, there you go.
yeah,
You can
you're
go
gonna
ahead and curse yourself.
stress, illness, then
Yeah.
relationship breakdown, then the mind starts to malfunction because we're
Mhm.
talking about sanity here.
Yeah.
Literally being able to make evaluations based on facts, not based on illusion or delusion.
And of course, we talked about science and sanity by Alfred Korzybski and using
Yep.
the
The structural
structural
differential.
differential.
Yeah, that was
And
that
it's
point.
another verbiage with that same process.
Yeah,
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 similar process.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just about anything you want to tackle. You
Hmm.
don't go into it and say, I'm going to complete this now.
No.
You just go into it and say, I'm going to complete one cycle now. So every cycle has a
It-
beginning, a middle, and an end. And when you're conscious of how you feel and what's going on, you start to see, okay, I'm making progress.
yeah.
Now it's starting to feel difficult. It's starting to feel strenuous. I just
Yeah.
broke my pencil point. You know what?
Yeah.
Let it go,
Exactly.
relax. That's gradation by degrees.
Yep.
Then I'll come back to it when I'll feel the energy's ready and I'll have
Hmm.
fun with it and I'll make more progress. And the whole time I'm staying sane
Yeah.
because when we're emotionally unbalanced, we start believing the ideas in our head and
Yeah.
all
Mhm.
hell breaks loose.
Oh, yeah.
People say, oh, oh, I have a terrible job. I have a horrible job. My life feels so meaningless. And they don't realize, you're in an upset state. So
Yeah.
first thing is when you're upset, you don't think
Right.
the time to
Yeah.
think. And then if you look, you're just reacting to the movie in your mind about your life.
Yeah.
Like the movie, walk out of the theater. Let it,
Oh, I
don't
like that
ident-
line. I may
yeah.
have to write a poem with that title.
Yeah, don't automatically identify
Yeah.
the ideas and the visions that occur in your mind about yourself, your
Hmm.
life, other people, particularly when you're in a state of emotional imbalance.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so following a gradient scale and doing everything, I don't have to go all the way. I just have to
Right.
start moving in that direction. Then I can take a break. Then I can come back to it. You stay sane. You stay balanced emotionally,
Yes.
mentally, good evaluations. You can be functional.
And sometimes I know in my case, and I'm sure lots of other people, you have a plan. And sometimes my plan includes, but it's got to be done by tomorrow at 9 o'clock. It's gotta.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah. well, what if the energy's not right? What if the measurement's not healthy and wise, so on and so forth?
Something
You
else
can,
comes up.
there's
Yeah.
always something you can, there's always a way to modify,
Mhm.
come up with some kind of compromise. It's
Yeah,
not usually life and death,
right. So,
which
and
is
that
not
was,
even,
and that was where Isidore used to talk about sitting loose to life,
yeah,
right? Don't get so hung up. You got a plan? Okay.
yeah,
It's tentative,
exactly.
right? Emerson has a beautiful line where he talks about he says that consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. Like if I say I'm gonna, and he would say, if I say I'm gonna do something and then tomorrow I change my mind, that's okay if that's what's appropriate to the situation. Because like we talked about with general semantics,
Yeah,
everything is changing,
yes,
right?
all the time, all
You
the
could
time.
say, well, yesterday I was able to do it, but that doesn't mean I could do it tomorrow. There might be
Yeah.
something going on energetically or environmentally that doesn't make it the right thing to do right then.
And of course, sometimes if I bring this topic up to someone who's not receptive, first I usually just drop it.
Mhm.
But, well, what do you mean? I have to go to work. I got to work 9 to 5. I got to be on the phone at least 7 hours a day. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
go, yeah. And I have to let it go. I used to, when I was younger, I would try to
Yeah.
convince them, wait a minute. No,
Sure. Yeah,
I let that.
that's the slave mentality.
Yeah. So, being on the assembly line,
Yeah,
attaching a bolt for 40 years to something.
I have no
And
choice.
I'm on the positive side, God bless them, they're making money to pay for their family's food. But on the other energetic side, and then the
Yeah,
healthy side, as far as sane living,
could be killing them.
it's exactly basically
They're
they work
killing
their
themselves.
butt off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they kill
Ever go to
themselves.
Bernie's Diner in Brooklyn? Bernie's Diner?
No.
There,
Oh,
there's lots
Bernie's
of
diner.
Bernie's Diner, Bernie.
Yeah.
There's a
What
lot of
about,
diners. Could be any diner.
I love diners, yeah.
It was
June,
Bernie's Diner.
Bernie's
And
diner.
I was sitting there having breakfast once, and Bernie came over and sat down and said, "Hey, I noticed you guys coming in here quite a bit." And he takes this little pouch and lines up about 13 different medications. And he said, "Don't do what I did. I worked for 40 years, and now look what I'm doing. I have to take all these to stay alive. Don't do what I did."
Right.
That
Well,
just hit me.
so if you look at what makes people make those kind of decisions, it could be
Yeah.
things like dogma,
Yes.
right? Precedent,
Mm-hmm.
just a blind belief. This is what you're supposed to do. This is what you
Yeah.
have to do. This is what a responsible parent or father or partner or person does.
Yeah.
Instead of examining the actual facts and how they're working, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to stick to some idea of how I'm quote unquote supposed to be, even if it kills me. And if it does, it's not my fault. I did the right thing.
There, I think there's a book in the Bible. The guy's name's Job, Job. He was the good man, but things didn't work out. But he was always doing the right thing, but he suffered. Similar pattern. I mean, it's just, you can think you're right and you think you're good and you think you're honest, but you know what? You're not really energetically being aware in the moment. Even good things can turn out bad.
Well, Isidore used to say, it's not what we do consciously that gets us into trouble. It's what we do unconsciously.
Yeah, that's the part where I'm trying to let go of the fear of that.
Hmm.
Because I've
Well,
gotten to
yeah,
the point where I know there's some things I'm not aware of right now.
everything.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
infinity.
Things that I should be aware of that I'm not
Well,
noticing yet.
shouldn't,
When the time comes, it's okay.
the
Yeah,
consciousness expands by gradation.
yeah,
Right? And
right.
so, there's an old story about a master of wisdom who wanted his disciple to take a message across the desert at night. It had to arrive at the other master's uh, domicile by first thing in the morning.
Oh, I like this story.
And,
Yeah.
and the guy said, and the disciple says, "But master, it's dark out there. It's pitch black, and there are snakes and scorpions and cactus. And how am I gonna get through?" He says, "Well, I'll give you a light." So the master gives him a little lantern. The
Okay.
lantern only lights up about 3 feet around him as he walks.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
master, as I walk through the desert, anything can come at me from the darkness that I can't see. And the master said, just focus on what you can see and
Oh,
you'll be
that's good.
taken care of.
I like that. Yeah. Don't have to worry about should or should not
And
at
it's
that
again,
point.
it's like that
Yeah.
gradation. How much
Hmm.
can I do right now? How much can
Yeah.
I see? How much can I perceive? I go from there. Let's look at another one.
Oh,
Ready
yeah.
for another
I'm
ism?
ready. Yeah.
Okay. So here, this is a bit longer. This is the gradual outgrowing of the low emotional levels, the removing of your energy from identification with emotions, the plugging up of most unconscious emotional leaks. These are the essence of growth and
Hmm.
infinitely more important to proper function than any ideas glittering promise.
Mm-hmm.
Can
Yeah.
you retain that, or do I need to read it again? You got
No,
the.
no, no, no. I got a
So
feel
what's your
for it.
comment? Sure, what's
And
your comment on that? Yeah.
well, yeah, there's a lot going on sometimes.
Mhm.
Some people call it below the surface. I think for somebody who's conscious, the surface and the not surface are sort of part of the same continuum. And not paying attention to what you're emoting become a habit that repeats itself endlessly until you become conscious of it. And those are leaks, what they call in alchemy. Well, the goal is to become alchemically sealed.
Mhm.
And if you have
Hermetically
leak,
sealed, yeah.
hermetically sealed, thank you.
Mhm. Yeah.
And if they're not, if you're leaking all the time, or oftentimes, or usually in a
Mhm.
pattern of emotional reactivity, that
Mhm.
might be just sitting there like a mood.
Mhm.
Uh,
A
you're
low
going to have
mood.
some, you're going to attract some interesting situations that maybe perhaps you'll have to learn.
And it's literally a leak of your energy. You're going
It
to get
is.
yourself
Yeah.
exhausted.
And you'll find people that'll go, I'm tired all the time.
Right.
I'm in a state of fatigue.
Right.
I can't believe I'm only 25 and I'm just exhausted.
So they
So,
have to plug up the leak. So the first part is outgrowing the low emotional levels. What does
mhm.
that mean to you, Greg?
Well,
Outgrowing the low emotional levels.
well, what that
Sounds like
means,
it just sounds like what you're working on to get out of frustration,
yeah,
right?
I'm in
Trying
a
to connect.
state where I would love to do a little more refinement because I enjoy the joy and the pleasure and the happiness and the wisdom of feeling a higher frequency energy. And I said, why not be more refined and let go of a few more? And it's very liberating, but first of all, but what was the question?
What would you describe, or what would you say are referring for low
Oh,
emotional,
okay. Yeah,
what
there's a,
are low emotional levels? What does that mean to you?
I talk about that in my Star Consciousness book. In the Buddhist Hindu religion, they talk about different levels of wave bands, I guess you can call them. That's a scientific term more that Friedman brought out in Isidore. So there are what they call tapas, or lower frequency energies. And you can get caught in them like a net.
Mhm.
And you can get so identified that I think that's all there is.
So
And
what would
you,
be some examples of those? What
someone
could
who
be
gets
exceptions?
someone
Anger,
who gets depression, anger,
depression, mhm,
hostility,
happiness,
revenge,
revenge,
uh,
hatred,
yeah,
anxiety,
right.
insecurity,
It goes on and on. There's
right?
so many, yeah,
Self-critical,
fear, different fear bands
yeah.
that are there. Uh,
Feelings of lack, feelings of not being good enough,
yeah,
feelings of being
well,
inferior, comparing
yeah,
yourself to others in a negative
exactly.
way. So all those
Making up,
low negative moods, right?
yeah,
So the gradual outgrowing of those levels.
yeah,
So to me, that just means practicing living free of those levels. Noticing
definitely.
when one is starting to come upon you.
Yeah,
Notice when a lower emotional vibration is starting to take hold of your energy. That's to
yes,
so you can release it, and the more you stay out of it in circumstances that used to trigger it,
yeah,
that's the outgrowing of it.
yeah. There'll be a moment when you're going to attract it and you're feeling it and experiencing it on a, it's starting to, so we're sort of absorbed into your field of energy.
Mhm.
And like you say, if you're conscious now and you non-identify, you're going to have growth. Because that time, maybe it doesn't happen all the time after that, but that one first time where you feel liberated, I
Mhm.
don't have to go with that. Not
That's
necessary. I
I'm
have the
not a
freedom to
slave,
choose. Yeah,
not a slave to it. It's
exactly.
interesting in the Tarot, the Tarot Paul Foster case, the BOTA Tarot, that process is symbolized by card 8, strength.
Oh,
as
appropriate was a sign of
Sophia.
a Leo right now too.
Yeah,
So
that's okay.
sorry to
So,
cut you off there, Bob.
well,
Go
it
ahead.
also depends on when we're listening, when they're listening to this. Right
Exactly.
now,
Yeah.
we're in Leo, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of Leo energy between us. So this
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
fiery podcast, right?
Yeah.
But
I
these are
love
the
that.
these are the
Yeah.
lower emotional states,
Yes.
and just taming them, just taming them and training them gives birth to Sophia, gives birth to wisdom.
Hmm.
As we tame them, as we
Yeah.
outgrow them. I use the analogy, as you become aware, um, and I always recommend the practice of just staying aware of your feelings consistently,
Oh
constantly.
yeah.
But
Definitely.
what happens, just like when you're about to step off a curb and you can see a car coming, you can step back and avoid it.
Hmm.
Same thing can happen on the mental and emotional level.
Definitely.
You can see it coming.
Yeah.
And nope, I don't have to go. And if you miss it, you get into the net, you get stuck,
Yeah.
entangled in it, and then you got to get out of it. We
Yeah.
use method, you can use something else, but then you got to get
Yep.
out of it.
You
But if you're
do.
conscious and you're practicing living in a balanced emotional state, you can see it coming and starting to take hold of your energy, and you could just let it go.
One of the key things you said there to me, you can see it coming. You literally can sense it before it happens. It could be a minute, a second, 30 seconds, an hour. You see it coming, you can feel it coming, and you go, okay, why don't you make the choice now? Why wait till I get here?
That's right.
Or just go by it and notice it, and you don't have to get in the way of it, whatever it might be, good or bad or indifferent. And it's a very fulfilling and enjoyable feeling.
Or you could say, you know what? And I've had a number of students that I've worked with give this a try,
Yeah,
say, you know what? I'm going into it. I'm gonna
yeah,
see what happens. And
yes, oh yeah,
what happens is they learn never to do that again.
yeah, yeah. From time to time, I do some of that. As a teacher myself, I occasionally take a small teaching job for one of my former students, and I know it's going to be from the frying pan into the fire,
Mm,
more or less. So
mhm.
I just have to prepare myself to be extra, what's the word?
Extra conscious.
Vigilant, vigilant,
Yeah,
vigilant.
visual.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, yes.
And it does
So,
create more of a vigilant, kind of a vigilant muscle. It sort
yeah,
of gets stronger as long as you apply it. Yeah.
yeah, living in perception, living in
Yeah.
bare attention,
Hmm.
practicing just noticing what is happening right now, not
Yeah.
just around me, but also around me, but also internally.
Yeah.
And not having to like label the feelings or thoughts,
No, no,
just
no.
noticing, living in perception. So he makes a statement here in a phrase you alluded to it, you used the word identification. He says,
Yeah.
the removing of your energy from identification with your emotions.
Mm,
So what
yeah.
does that mean to you to be identified with your emotions? Because I think most people are.
Oh, yeah. And well, I was talking about frustration. There's a lot of other emotions, but that's one I've been looking at and progressing through. It's not like it's all the time, but occasionally I bump into one and I go, whoa, here's an opportunity. I actually see it as an opportunity to
Mhm.
not feed, what would you call it, the lower frequencies, I guess you could say, like the word you were using.
Yeah, don't feed the beast.
Don't feed the beast, because if
Yeah,
I do,
he's gonna
I
get
know
stronger.
what it comes in a spiral return at some point. Something, that same energy, you have not let it go fully. So you attract it in some other way, and it's an opportunity eventually to be liberated if you stick with it.
That's right.
And
That's
from
right.
time to
So,
time, you get a
so what's the
breakthrough.
identification aspect of what does it mean to you to be identified with an emotion? What does that mean?
You believe it's you on some level.
Like this is really how I truly feel.
Your
I
I
am
identify.
truly angry.
Yeah, you get
Goes
so
back to
identified.
the identity.
Yeah, the is of identity. Your I-ness or
Mhm,
ego, whatever you want to
mhm.
call it, just laminates to it
Right.
like crazy glue. And it happens so quickly sometimes you don't really notice that you're identified.
Yes.
And so once you're identified and stuck there, that's where being aware really helps, because you can
And the
begin to let.
more I find that the more awareness is practiced,
Yeah,
what happens is these emotional states, moods, attitudes, they become like an internal weather system. It's
yeah, okay,
I'm not angry, but I'm having to deal with this angry energy right now.
yeah, yeah,
And
Yeah,
try
you're
to separate that even in your speech, rather
yes,
than saying, I am angry. I remember Gurdjieff used to do a practice where he would say to not say I ever, but
yeah.
saying I am angry, I am dealing with anger. I am dealing with sadness. I am dealing.
Hmm.
It might sound like just a little nothing,
Oh, no, no, that's a big deal.
but it can help you just identify with it, gives
Yeah,
you the space to say, well, I don't have to go there.
yeah.
It's just weather. I can just
Mhm.
go take a nap while this anger does its own thing, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of, and
Yeah.
you'll see sometimes I'll go this direction, not that direction. If I keep going that way, I'm going to feed the beast, feed the anger, feed whatever. And yeah,
And then you
well,
start running into people who are identified with their anger, let's say.
oh
Like if
yeah,
you identify with your anger, you're gonna find yourself talking to someone else who identify with their anger. And
yeah.
what does the anger want you to do? To rip each other apart.
Start fighting.
Yeah.
Occasionally, I had students in class where they were kind of bickering toward each other, and it was causing a little bit of ripple in the room. And sometimes I'd say, look at what is it you want? I want them to stop that. Tell them, could you please stop that? I could say that, sure. Stop that. Okay, I'll stop it. There was a time to have less identification, is what I was thinking.
Yeah, yeah, to not
Yeah.
identify with
Mhm.
emotions at all.
Yeah.
And how about this one? The plugging up of most unconscious emotional leaks. What does it mean to plug up an unconscious emotional leak? What does that mean to you?
To me, it means that when you begin to be aware that you're losing energy to something because you're allowing it to, feeding the beast, habit, justification that you're going to be negative anyway, because you just have to be because you're right. You can have the alternative to do something different. Does that make any sense? When we
It
talked
does,
about this,
it
yeah,
does. Yeah, it does. I mean, I would expand upon that in
yeah,
terms of just the unconscious dimension of it is,
yeah,
a person could be walking around in an ornery mood,
yeah,
feeling deprived and
yeah.
not know it,
Oh, that's true. Oh, yeah,
right?
that's very true. Yeah.
That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
unconscious emotional leak
Oh,
where
I
they
see
could
what you
be
mean. Okay.
grumbling,
Yeah,
about a conversation that they just had where they feel like somebody outdid them
yeah, yeah.
and not realizing you're burning up your energy in
Hmm.
this emotional state. So energy is so essential
Oh, yeah.
for right function, for
Mm.
consciousness,
Yeah.
right? Because
I'm
if we're
glad you brought
wasting
up the
energy
thing
in
of,
unconscious emotion, we don't have the energy to be conscious.
I mean, over the years, and I'm continuing with that process, you made a very good point about talking about something. Might be an event that felt slighted or it wasn't right. And you start telling everybody, or
Hmm.
even a few people too much. You're telling the story.
Over and over.
And it came up to a point where I went, why do I have to tell anybody? Who cares? Move on. It's not essential.
And
Why?
it's, and not only that,
Yeah,
it's like the more we talk about something,
yeah,
the bigger it becomes in our mind. And it seems
yeah,
like this is like my top priority that my neighbor let his dog pee on my lawn. And like,
yeah.
there's nothing more important than that.
And you might actually get to a point where you go see the neighbor and say, look, I have a patch over here on my lawn. I'm going to put a fence and you have your dog go in there.
Right.
Okay, you know what? Forget the fence. Just use the whole yard.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes
It's,
it stops happening then.
yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, like everything, Isidore used to talk about how life is an initiation process.
Oh, yeah.
Every challenge that we're going through, it's just a test.
Yeah.
It's just to show you like how am I handling it, how am I mishandling it, and how
Hmm.
can I handle it better. And and and,
That's a
and
great summary right there.
yeah,
Yeah.
one of the challenges that I find over the years in working with people, I've been doing this for 40, 50 years, just like you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Long haul.
it doesn't seem like that though,
No,
but
no.
it's so common to confuse the ability to give all these answers that we're giving right now and
Yeah.
think that's the path,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Right.
ability to talk it.
Yeah. That's, yeah.
I have all the answers. Oh yeah, I know all that. I read that in a book, but are you actually trying to find those unconscious energy leaks?
Hmm.
Are you actually deliberately paying a little bit more attention each day to your present emotional state to see, am I a lower level? of emotion? Am I identifying with the emotion? Is this emotion draining me of energy? You can see all that if you live it, if you
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah. It's that transition from knowing the way to going the way is at first could be a very, for some people, it can be like, seems like a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah, seems too
It
hard.
is effort. It's effort. But I
Well,
think
but
if
if you do
you,
a gradient scale though,
that's exactly
right? Do a
little
gradient
bit,
scale, it
little bit,
happens.
little bit. And
It
you
happens.
definitely, in my view, you will have a feedback circuit, if you want to call it that, of like, oh, I feel so much better. That energy is not leaking as much.
Yeah,
You can call it that.
yeah.
And
So the transition from knowing to doing. I
hmm,
remember, I think I might have shared this on the podcast previously,
yeah,
where I went to Isidore, one morning for a lesson, and I said, this was probably the first year maybe. And
okay.
I said, Isidore, I love organics, it's beautiful, but it doesn't seem to really work. And he said, it's because you're not using it.
Yeah,
Because you're
exactly.
excited about it, you're talking about it, you're
Hmm.
sharing everything.
You're
Oh,
reading about it.
you're thinking about applying it,
Exactly.
you're not doing it. He says, just spend the day conscious, just pay attention, and
Yes.
you'll start to see something shift.
And I know in the early phases with that similar experience, I got to the point finally I said, look, I'm going to get a 3x5 card and I'm going to write it down.
Yes.
And
And
I
hold
just
it in front of you all day.
had it right in my pocket here.
That's what I
And
did too.
at first I just left it in the pocket. I never used it. But after a while, I started putting down one or two things because I wasn't really noticing that much. I was so unconscious.
That's the way you use the index card, right? Okay.
Yeah, for me, that was one way.
Yeah, what,
And
what I
then,
would do is like what I'm reading from this page, I would write down one of these statements
yes,
and I would just keep looking at it and put into practice in that moment.
yeah,
Like, okay, right now, check in with my emotions.
yeah,
What is am I in an emotional state? Am I identified with that emotional state?
yes,
Just right now, do it,
yeah, yeah, right
That's how
now.
it started to blossom for me.
Yeah, don't put it off.
Mhm.
And like go back to the gradations again. You don't have to tackle it all in one day, 1 minute, one year even. Just keep going.
I think you have to really want it.
Yeah,
I think you have to really want to be liberated more than a Cadillac, you know? You gotta really, really just want to experience that high frequency of liberation once you get that taste.
yeah. That I think you nailed. Well, I don't know, maybe I should use the word nailed, but
Okay.
you actually really when you experience what that's like, the so-called manna from heaven. I'm using that symbolically. The energy that feels really joyful, stable, wise, conscious,
Clear,
happy.
lucid.
Yeah, lucid, uh, compassionate, go on and on, all
Yeah.
these spiritual frequencies. You go like, whoa, this feels a lot better than the lower frequencies.
For some people,
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, it's
right?
true.
For some people,
Some people,
Vivian talks about the grades of initiation. He said the first degree of initiation is when you make contact with someone at that higher vibration level.
yeah,
It just causes that quickening,
yeah, the quickening. Yeah,
Christos, the quickening of the Christos.
yeah, yeah,
And then that's the first degree initiated. And then the second degree is when you're just hungry. You just
yeah,
feed on that light. And he talks about that somewhere. He says in another one of the paragraphs, he says, the attaining of a stable conscious focus in all you do, the constant nourishing of your deeper inner being with the higher level frequencies of the noetic level.
hmm,
What does that mean to nourish your deeper inner being with the higher level frequencies of the noetic level? I think some of the people watching and participating in this video, this podcast of ours, might be feeling that nourishing on the higher light.
yeah. I'm going to go by first association I'm getting there. And I had the image of reading this book, Practicing the Presence by
Hmm.
Brother Klaus.
Yep.
And the feeling you get when he's doing that, was doing that, it was prayer and meditation without ceasing. In other words, oh, I'll practice that for a few minutes and I'll forget about it and go back to my old self. when you read that little book by him, apparently, it sounds like, no, it was nonstop.
Right.
Every single second, every microsecond of every day, even when you're sleeping. And
Living
when
with
you get,
God.
yeah, living in that presence 24/7, you don't even think about time. You're just there doing it. And you enjoy it and becomes something that's just part of your everyday living.
So it's a combination of letting go of the lower frequency
Mhm.
emotional vibrations
Yeah,
and nurturing yourself on the higher frequencies.
yeah,
Like, after working with Isidore, I learned very quickly, like last thing before I go to sleep, I always make sure that I read something that nurtures me
Ye-
spiritually,
yeah, exactly.
you
Yeah,
know, to carry me through the night when my subconscious is open to feed on that light.
yeah.
And when I first encountered Isidore, I was in very rough shape.
Oh,
And psychologically, I was a
yeah.
mess.
Oh, wow.
Um, and I found that, the books that he would recommend and going through the organics notes was
Yeah,
feeding me on a light that
yeah,
literally gave me life. I couldn't live without that light. I had to just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
dive into that and inundate myself with that just to survive. I needed that
Mm,
light just to survive on the earth plane.
yeah.
There are other people who feel that way.
Oh, I'm sure there's many people that feel that way. And over the years, I've met so many that when they do get that igniting energy through one way or another, once they get that taste, they are very motivated. They'll do whatever practice they have to do. And a lot of times, it may not be 100% to begin with,
Mhm.
but they don't, once they get away from it a little bit, they want to get back to it.
Yeah, yeah, you
They
can
want to get
fall
back
off
to it.
you can fall off the beam,
Yeah,
experience what it means to be an unconscious oblivion and chaos,
yeah,
get
yeah,
right back on rails. No, this is my path.
yeah.
Remember one time when Izzy was sick and I would drive him to the doctor sometimes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And one of our conversations, he said to me, Bobby, um, my brother was wealthy, lawyer or something, and I could have been
Mhm.
a lawyer or a doctor, he was brilliant. I could have been a professional musician.
Oh,
You know,
definitely.
he said, but you know what? I did what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
This was my path. My wife didn't understand it. My children don't understand it. My grandchildren don't understand. This is what
yeah,
she was telling me. And I had to do what is really right for me. I had to fulfill this job,
yeah.
this lifetime.
Well, I can relate to that. So, yeah, I know in my case, if I get too far off thinking I have to, rather than follow that path, where it's energetically has an equilibrium to it. It has
Mhm.
a calmness to it. It has a nurturing quality to it. It's very fulfilling. And you don't think about, well, success in the world or making a lot of money. Not that success in that form is wrong.
That's
Simply
fine.
could be part of your path.
Mhm.
And I met some wonderful people who are very generous,
Mhm.
having followed a path and generated a lot of cash
Mhm.
flow.
Mhm.
But you don't really spend your day, I've got to make a lot of money. It's more like
Mhm.
I want to follow my inner urges toward whatever the next thing is, next person, next place, next situation. And I get intuitions all the time. When I follow a lot of them, things really work out beautifully.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't really have to
The
think.
it's the hunger for more light,
Yeah,
more, but there's no way to describe it.
no, you really can't.
This feeling, this,
We're generating some kind of an energy. Hopefully people can pick up on it, like you
yeah,
mentioned, and you get
yeah,
a little bit of a taste, maybe a lot of a taste, or,
yeah,
and if you're motivated enough by some of the things we've discussed and
yeah,
try it out and go from thinking and reading
to
and
doing.
trying it out, even for a month, a
Mhm.
week. I put a challenge in my Star Consciousness book. Hey, you know what? You're alive 40,000 days a year. Take one day, take a half day and apply these things just to see what it feels like. I'm not trying to tell you the answer. Just prove it to yourself.
Right. And
Yeah,
pair,
test it out.
right. Well, that's the
Yeah.
whole key. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it's interesting, here. you know, in my whole career, it's only been me teaching people. Yours was you teaching, but here you and I
Yeah.
are doing something kind of unique. It's the two of us connecting
Yeah.
on the organics energy level.
Yeah.
You know, like bringing in, you know, connecting together that
Yeah.
frequency that we received from Isidore.
Yes. And
Darshan, kind of.
this is just my
Two people
intuitive.
doing it together. It's a duo. We're Paul
Yeah.
McCartney and John Lennon.
Okay, John. No,
Okay, Paul.
I'm just
Well,
estoy
yeah.
bromeando en español. Just kidding. But anyway, I was thinking about that, and the way this is just some of the thoughts I have recently, intuitive thinking. I don't really have many final conclusions, but technology is going at such a pace. I think the timing more than ever for any kind of wisdom teaching is critical. People are going to be starving for wisdom.
I agree.
Just because you have the vast internet and artificial intelligence of information doesn't really feed something. Doesn't
How
feed
do I
that.
live? How do you live?
Exactly.
How do you live through this? How
Yeah.
do you
So
live sanely, consciously, with fulfillment and joy
yeah.
and in abundance? Because you don't need to have money to experience
No,
abundance.
no.
You just
Yeah.
need peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
so
well,
anyway, I think the timing is so right. And I'm sure there's lots of others out there doing their wisdom teachings, and
well, you know,
we want to work together to bring more of the wisdom in.
this is the Aquarian age.
Exactly. And I
It's the
think
time
it'll
to
help
know.
us handle this very accelerated technology, social media, artificial intelligence, and so on and so forth, which is be overwhelming for a lot of people.
Yeah, and so it's if you just practice staying balanced and let that be your parameter.
Yeah.
Let that be your boundary. So like you said, well, I could do this, I could do, okay, but stay balanced, even as you
Yeah.
consider all the options.
Yes.
Being balanced, that's not optional. That's necessary. Maintaining that feeling of
Hmm.
being centered and balanced and whole. And some people who are like, never experienced that. I don't know how to get there.
No. Yeah.
When you connect with something like this, you start to learn.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
start
Good
to tune in.
point. Yeah. We're
Okay.
very fortunate. We're very fortunate. Yeah. for
Okay,
sure.
well, we are at the conclusion of the 10th
Whew.
episode.
Wow.
of Tuning in, 10 monthly episodes. Any
Fantastic.
closing words, Dr. G, for people
I
to
would-
keep with them into their daily lives?
I'm going to go back and repeat the same thing we've said over and over. Give it a try, an honest, sincere, functional, practical effort in tiny little steps, and see what happens. Give it 3 months, give it 3 weeks, give it something. You have a whole lifetime. If you feel drawn to it, apply a few things
Beautiful.
that we've talked about, a few things that you've read about.
Spoken
Yeah.
like a true Taurian.
That's true. Yeah.
Do it.
I'm full of bull.
All right. Well,
Okay.
thank you for your
Next time.
enlightening bull. We love it.
Yeah.
And
And
my
we love the
amigo.
ram. We love the ram.
Okay, me too. I'm the Aries Ram.
Yeah.
So I will talk to you next month.
Yes, next time. Enjoy.
Adios, amigo.
Adios, amigo.